There's a cave in Spain where archaeologists found something they wish they hadn't. Human bones, children's bones.
With cut marks, the kind of marks you only get from stone tools deliberately separating meat from bone.
The children had met a tragic fate, and those responsible were their own kin.
This isn't a story about monsters. It's a story about us and what our ancestors were willing to do.
When survival stopped being guaranteed and started being a choice between horrific options. For most of human history, eating your own children wasn't murder. It was mathematics. Let's be clear about what we're talking about.
Archaeologists have found evidence of cannibalism at sites all over the world. France, England, Peru, North America. But the cases we're discussing aren't about tribal warfare or ritual sacrifice. This is something colder, more calculated. This is about parents looking at their own children and making a calculation that no parent should ever make.
The site in Spain is called Gran Dolina. It's part of the Atapuerca Mountains, and it's given us remains.
In the 1990s, researchers uncovered bones from at least 11 individuals. All of them showed signs of being processed. Skulls cracked open for brains, long bones smashed for marrow. The bones were mixed with animal bones, deer, horses, humans, all of it discarded in the same trash heap. The individuals were between 2 and 18.
They died roughly 800,000 years ago. But here's what makes it even stranger. The species wasn't even here.
These were Homo antecessor, an earlier human ancestor, which means the practice of consuming your own kind is older, way older. This wasn't something we invented, it's something we inherited. Now, some researchers argue cannibalism was nutritional. Calories in, calories out. A human body contains roughly 125,000 calories. That's 2 months.
Enough to keep a small group alive for weeks during a famine. From a purely energetic standpoint, it makes.
Except humans are terrible food. We're lean, we're bony. We take years to raise. If you're choosing what? Almost any large animal gives you better return on effort than another human. So why do it? The answer.
The answer might be in the bones themselves. The children at Gran Dolina weren't killed during a raid.
There's no evidence of violence beyond the butchering. They weren't enemies. They were likely part of the same group. And that changes everything. Because it suggests these weren't acts of aggression. They were acts of desperation.
Anthropologists studying modern hunter-gatherer societies have documented something chilling. In times of extreme famine, the group doesn't starve.
Decisions get made. The elderly may choose to wander off into the wilderness. The sick may be left behind.
And sometimes, the youngest ones, whose names were yet to be spoken, remain only in the tribe's quiet memories. But everyone understands what happened. This isn't cruelty, it's triage. If keeping one child alive means 4 others.
The group makes a choice. The question isn't whether it's moral. The question is whether the group survives.
But cannibalism operates on a different level. Because once you cross that line, you're rewriting the rules of being.
You're turning your own children into resources. And that requires a kind of psychological flexibility that most of us.
There's a theory in evolutionary biology called kin selection. It predicts that parents will sacrifice almost anything to protect. It's why a mother bear will fight to the death to protect her cubs. It's why human parents run into burning buildings. The biological drive to preserve your children is one of the strongest forces in nature. So what?
What happens when that drive gets overridden? What has to break inside a person's mind to butcher their own?
The answer might be simpler than you think, and darker. Because the evidence suggests it wasn't just about starvation.
There were other factors, social factors, factors that had nothing to do with calories and everything to do with.
In Papua New Guinea, in the highlands where the Fore people lived until the mid-20th century, anthropologists documented a practice. When life comes to an end, The community gathers. We prepare the transition. Families unite, not out of hunger, out of respect. They believed the dead person's spirit needed to be absorbed back into the new. If you didn't eat your grandmother, her soul would wander. This wasn't savagery. This was their version of a funeral. They followed ancient funerary customs, but these rituals held a hidden danger that affected many. They were unaware of the microscopic forces at play, proteins that destroy brain tissue. They cause a disease called Kuru, which means trembling with fear. It's similar to MAD,
cow disease, and it spreads through consuming infected neural tissue. By the 1950s, Kuru had become an epidemic among.
Whole villages were dying. Women and children were hit hardest because they were the ones eating the brain. The men, those who followed different customs or did not take part in the specific ritual, were often unaffected. It took many years for the mystery of their health to be understood.
The practice stopped. Within a generation, Kuru nearly disappeared. But here's the twist. Some people never got sick. Scientists discovered these individuals carried a genetic mutation that made them resistant to prions. And that mutation didn't just
appear randomly. It was selected for, which means their ancestors had been eating human flesh long enough for evolution.
To build in a defense mechanism. You don't evolve prion resistance unless cannibalism has been happening for thousands of years, maybe tens of thousands. This isn't a one-time famine response. This is deep evolutionary history. But the Fore weren't
eating people out of desperation. They were doing it because their culture told them it was right. So what about? What about the sites where the bones show violence? Cut marks that suggest rage, not ritual. Gough's Cave in England
Contains bones from 14,000 years ago. Human remains were smashed open. Skulls were turned into drinking cups. Ribs were cracked for marrow. And the bones were mixed with animal bones, tossed into the same refuse pile.
No ceremony, no burial, just waste. Some researchers believe this was punishment, a way to humiliate enemies even after.
to preserve their legacy or ensure they remained at rest. Researchers have uncovered evidence of these complex beliefs across the globe.
Around 1150 years ago, an entire group of ancestral Puebloans was killed and eaten. The bones were
processed like animal bones, burned, broken, discarded. White argued this was a message, a warning to other groups.
Step out of line and this is what happens to you. Not just death, erasure. Your body won't even be. But there's another possibility, one that's harder to think about. What if it wasn't punishment? What if it was just normal? In times of extreme resource scarcity, the line between human and animal starts to blur. If you've already killed.
Does it really matter what you do with the body? Maybe ancient humans didn't see cannibalism as crossing a line?
Maybe they saw it as just another option. One more tool in the survival kit. We like to think
the same mind capable of building cities and composing symphonies is the same mind that once struggled for survival in a harsh, unforgiving world.
We're not separate from our ancestors. We're just luckier. And if that luck runs out, we'll find out quickly.